All right, today we're talking about how to come up with a wild idea and then use that to grow business in virtually any industry. My guest today is Alexis Krisay. She's going to tell us about some of those wild ideas, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corkin here. I'm the host of this show. You know, each week I talk with interesting CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs from all kinds of different companies. And if you look at the archives, we've got Netflix and Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's, lots of great episodes. Check them out. And of course, this episode brought to you by Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses to get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you podcasts and content marketing. And you can learn about us at rise25.com, learn about our new podcast co-pilot platform that we rolled out recently. All right, Alexis, so happy to have you here today. And so first of all, you've got an interesting background. You have been doing marketing for 20 plus years, and you're known for coming up with these kind of crazy, wild ideas. And we're going to be talking about that. You also been very active in Entrepreneurs Organization, which is how we connected with each other. And but first, I love to start by getting to know what people are like as a kid. And you, as a kid, you and your best friend decided you loved the movie Dirty Dancing. Gotta love Dirty Dancing. And you, like most kids, like just stop right there and maybe watch it 20 times. But you built a fake hotel. Tell me about your fake hotel that you built.
Yes, I know. It's crazy. Our parents thought we were insane because every day after school, we would go to each other's houses and work on, the old school boxy Macs. And we decided to name this hotel. I honestly don't remember what the name is, but we spent forever naming it. And then we defined like all these activities and it was just like Dirty Dancing concept on steroids. And we spent about 6 months fully building it out every day together, like typing it up. My stepmom worked for a paper company. And so she would bring us these fabulous paper samples that we could print brochures on. And we went from, hotel brochures to menus, to spa menus, to the activity menus. And it just was like so elaborate and funny for 2 8-year-olds to dream up and actually make come to life. And ironically, when my mom and I were cleaning out her like storage in her attic, we found it. So
Wow.
She's like, see, you've been crazy from the beginning.
Well, it's not that far removed from doing work in student housing, like building a property, it sounds actually super similar. So it's kind of a harbinger of things to come for you.
Which is funny because all growing up, I said I wanted to be a pediatrician, but then I ended up in marketing.
Yeah, go figure, right? But you also worked at a young age, 14 years old, you were working in a coffee shop and you basically became a manager of 2 different coffee shops at age 16. I don't know anyone who's doing that at age 16. I certainly wasn't.
Yeah, I begged my dad I wanted to work really early on, and he incentivized me by saying, I will match whatever you have in the bank by the time you need to buy a car. So I wanted to work as much as I can because obviously I was like, I'm going to buy this fancy car, and it was a Honda Civic back in the day.
Yeah. I had an Accord.
Yeah.
That was one of my first cars. Yeah.
It was awesome. And so I ended up working for 2 years really hard, just as like, the barista behind the scenes. And then at age 16 was promoted to manager and was doing coffee orders, doing scheduling, and ended up hiring. It was so fun. All my friends to work there. And it just became like the spot in high school to, come hang out, get coffee, and then kind of leave and launch ourselves like from closing the coffee shop to the next party.
It's funny. When I was in high school, we had a place called Yogurt and Video. That was the name of it. Yogurt and Video. It sold frozen yogurt, and it was a video rental store. And it was like the hot place that everyone worked at. And everyone wants to be at the hot place that everyone works at.
Yeah.
All the high school kids work at, right? So working kind of came naturally to you. And in college, same thing. You got into working. And you became an on-site leasing agent, which is how you got into student housing. Talk a little bit about that. You eventually are like traveling the country as national director of marketing for this company.
Yeah, so I think just growing up, everyone told me, Alexis, you could sell water to the ocean. And so my stepdad was a real estate agent, and I always would go with him on open houses. And I loved talking to people, and I couldn't really sell because I didn't have my license at a young age, but I loved helping him there. And so when the opportunity came up to be an on-site leasing agent at this brand new student development in Tucson, I jumped on it and it was a blast. I mean, we weren't just leasing apartments, we were throwing pool parties, and that was our leasing strategy. I had the fortunate opportunity to work with the corporate office to come up with a really cool campaign. I convinced them to buy an old school Hummer. We painted it and wrapped it with the logo, and we got a bunch of cute girls and we're in the back throwing t-shirts out on campus, and we became known as like the uni house girls. And that property leased up. It was, again, working with my best friends but also making a ton of money because we were incentivized to lease that place up. And then my senior year got promoted and was the national director of marketing, really traveling the country to see underperforming assets and come up with a plan, a strategy to, really fix it, make sure that in student housing, it's 0 to 100 every year. It's not like multifamily where you're just filling in units. You're always starting over. So
Always
I'm
starting
really
from scratch.
competitive
Yeah.
and I love
Yeah.
that piece.
Yeah. And what were some things that were holding these properties back? They were run down, or was it just kind of they passed a tipping point and there were so many vacancies that it was hard to get it back up again?
Yeah, I mean, multiple things. I mean, a couple things were just like oversupply coming into the market in certain smaller markets. The other thing is rundown properties where I would go in and I would go to IKEA and buy a bunch of new cool furniture and paint the walls kind of wild and just make it feel like more of a college atmosphere than kind of a rundown apartment. And then also just like the lack of creative marketing campaigns. Like back in the day, everyone thought get a flyer, go on campus and flyer the campus, and that's how you're going to lease. And it just, as student housing grew, you needed to come up with bigger ideas to just really move the needle.
And then how do you make sure that that ends up, as you said, moving the needle? Like, think the fear would be, oh, okay, we're going to spend a bunch of money on a pool party. Everyone's going to show up for this pool party, get free food or whatever. And then it's not going to materialize into actual people renting there. So how did you ensure that it actually resulted in the impact that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, well, we put certain guardrails in place, like in order to enter to win or to come to the pool party, you had to tour the property.
Hmm.
And when we do that, we were super confident in our, team that we were closers. So we are going to be throwing this awesome pool party. They're going to see, I mean, it was the best pool in Tucson at the time. They're going to see the new gym, the apartments, and they're like, I have to live here. So,
Hmm.
and then as that buzz was building, we knew what activities would really drive those leases. But yeah, I mean, if we were doing any giveaways, it was make sure you're at least getting them to a point where they're semi interested, so we can move the needle. And then
Yeah.
always tracking. I mean, I am a big reports and ROI person, so after every activity we would track like how many tours we got, how many converted to leases, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. And then tell us about this student housing project you did in San Luis Obispo. This is even more wild.
Oh my God, so wild. So the other crazy thing is, it was ironically, I had a boyfriend. Grew up in Pasadena. My boyfriend in high school lived at this Mustang Village place, and when I would go visit, it was like a dump. I mean, but it was the place to live. Fast forward, when I get transferred there, it became there was so much oversupply in the market that Mustang Village wasn't cool anymore. So I toured the property, figured out some things as far as like, sprucing it up would help. But we're like, I don't know. How are we going to lease this place? We got to come up with some crazy idea that's going to drive traffic. And I honestly have no clue how I came up with this idea, but this is typical of my brain. I came up with this idea of like, what if we did something totally outrageous that no student housing community's done? Let's give away $10,000 cash. An armed guard had the briefcase of the cash attached to his wrist, a film crew, a limo, and then you had 24 hours to spend that 10K. And
In San Luis Obispo? 'Cause San Luis Obispo is a sleepy town. Like this seems like very out of character.
I know, totally out of character. And honestly, I was shocked that management bought into my wild idea, but they're like, you know what? We got to lease this property. We trust you, make it happen. So we launched the promotion. We did a ton of radio. We would host like tour weekends. And then the goal was to like throw this big party to do the giveaway, right? And you would get basically a ticket if you toured, you get a ticket if you brought a friend, and then just this buzz just built up. And the property was, I mean, packed.
How many people did you have there when you announced the winner?
We had about 300 people like in the
Wow.
big yard, which is
Wow.
crazy.
All like
And
on pins and needles, hoping they're the
like,
one.
I need the money. Yeah. We had a
Yeah.
DJ, and, we hyped it all up. The radio guy was there, and it was so fun. So, we actually, the property at the time when I came in was like around like 35% leased. And after this campaign, we leased it up to like 97%, which is
Wow.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because I think if you also signed a lease, you got extra points to, get entered.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we
Yeah.
did the giveaway and it was awesome. This kid won. And of course, it's like this cute college kid. And he's like, grabs all these cute girls, his dream. And he's like, let's go in the limo.
Get in the limo.
Yeah. And they head to Santa Barbara. And of course, they just party it up. The video footage was awesome. I mean, it was just a great time.
Yeah. Now I went to college in Santa Barbara, so that's probably where I would head to with 10
Yeah.
grand and a limo full of girls. That would be a pretty good place to go hang out for a day.
And I think he only brought one other guy friend, which was hilarious. And just like,
All his buddies are like, "Hey, remember us? Remember
me.
us? Can we get a spot in the limo?" He's like, "No. See you guys when I get back." Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not here.
what a cool idea. And I mean, I imagine when you presented this to them, you're like, "This ain't gonna work," but I'm gonna tell them about it. So that they just hear this crazy idea, and then were you just shocked when they said, "Yeah, well, let's do it."
Yeah, I think I was laughing as I was presenting it because I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I'm going to tell you this idea. And it's, again, typical of like how I come up with ideas. And typically it's like I present this huge idea to a client and usually we'll pare it back just a few notches. But this one was like, they were all in. I think it's just the shock factor in the San Luis Obispo market. They were, they really bought in because they knew that nothing like this had ever existed in the market.
That's unusual, super unusual. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've also done other types of companies as well. It's particularly like multi-franchise location types of companies, similar to the student housing idea. Let's talk about those and building out that kind of model also.
Yeah.
And
So we've worked with a ton of different franchise concepts. I mean, one that everyone knows is Orange Theory Fitness. So we started with them early on when they had one unit in Arizona and worked with the regional developer and just the first location was kind of like a test here in Arizona. And we came up with this concept where it was really surrounded around the grand opening being a sales day. So like the last day before opening, like sell as many memberships as you can. So we were really smart back in the day where we'd really activate the grand opening party by partnering with other brands that were associated that had the like audience for Orange Theory. So whether it was like facial brands or there was like these to-go food boxes that were healthy food that were really hot in the market. And so we built these grand opening parties to be, 250 people lined up around the block to get in to win prizes and to get these discounted memberships, and really became known around the country as, it started as the 500 club and then it went to the 700 club of that's how many members they would open their doors with. So they would open, I mean, most studios gyms
0
open
probably.
right?
Yeah.
So they're opening cash flowing day one. And that was really our model. But we love working with the local franchisees or the franchisor to just really come up with a solid foundation for their marketing that can be replicated across multiple units and where they can have those efficiencies.
So Orange Theory Fitness is an interesting model because there's tons of gyms out there. There's been Gold's Gym, 24 Hour Fitness. There's been gyms that have gone bust. that were much bigger and come down. How do you differentiate a gym in that crowded marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, especially in Phoenix. I mean, Arizona, we have a different workout studio on
Every
every corner.
corner. Yeah.
So, it really was again just about the buzz and the unique ideas. And back in the day, we did this like orange bike idea where we spray painted orange bikes, locked them to um, like different signage poles, and then put a sign there and said like, what am I, where am I opening? And people were like, what are these orange bikes, like what's going on? And it just was, again, thinking of something that's like so out of the ordinary for a market and getting people to start talking about it has really been what's helped us, like
Mm.
just these off the wall concepts. And then it became like a scavenger hunt to find these bikes, and then you'd win a membership. So it's just about really thinking. I hate that think outside the box term, but I like to say think outside like the traditional playbook in your industry. If everyone else is doing, X, you need to do Y to really stand out.
Do something different. Yeah. Speaking of different, Own Fitness. This is some wearable technology suit, like a wetsuit that you put on. It's got a battery pack in it, and then you work out in it. This is another one you worked on. Whoa, what is that all about?
Yeah. So Ohm Fitness, we helped build, create the brand and really build everything around the startup of this company. It was so fun because it's so innovative. And what it is, like, it is that it's a suit, a wearable, like shorty wetsuit that you put a battery pack on. You go to the studio, you work out for 20 minutes, you have someone controlling your battery so you can work out and you're not really worrying about what you're doing during the workout. And it's great for busy people. I mean, spending an hour at the gym is really hard for a lot of people. So we really help them come up with the messaging, the brand, the vibe in this like new creative space.
And it's such an interesting, like, kind of different idea to do something like that. It really kind of stands out in the marketplace. Like there's nothing like how do you educate the marketplace when it's so different from everything else that's come before it?
Yeah, I would say that was kind of like the biggest challenge and still is because people are scared but once you try it, it's almost like you're immediately addicted. So it was really a heavy education push of what it is. And then more about education, but how is it beneficial to you? So you're a busy entrepreneur, like you need 20 minutes in and out. I mean, that's like, yes. And
Yeah,
I'm going
that's
to
the
get in
benefit.
shape of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. It certainly isn't putting on a wetsuit. Like that seems a little weird. But if the trade-off is 20 minutes, that sounds awesome. I want to ask an inside baseball question. So, you know, if you have a reputation for delivering big ideas and you're meeting with clients and they're like, frequently I think what ends up happening is the clients are like, well, what are your big ideas? How do you sell that service without giving away the store, or without doing a bunch of upfront work, like, oh, here's a bunch of different things you should do. And then they kind of try and go do it on their own, or you've done a bunch of work and then they don't hire you. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, you know what? I have to say that has been, I would almost say my secret weapon. I won't do a bunch of work, but I always say ideas are free.
Mm.
And I think when people get to know me and my team, they understand how passionate we are about marketing. And it's not we're just pitching to pitch. We genuinely, like, if we're going to go give you a big idea, we've thought about it and we're excited about it personally. So you can tell that we're excited about it personally, we're vested, and we're here as your partner to help. And then based on kind of our reputation and our case studies, people can see that we have
You
executed on
execute.
these big ideas and
Yeah.
they've been successful.
And most of these ideas we're talking about here are not things that can be easily executed. They require a lot of moving parts. They require a lot of energy, and probably most of the clients you're working with are not going to do it themselves.
No, and we like to say that. I mean, that's one of our things. It's like we make it easy for big ideas to come to life. So we want you to buy in on the idea and we're going to make it happen. You're going to sit back,
Yeah.
relax, and we want you to sit at the table with us and brainstorming so your brand is aligned. But we want to take that heavy lifting off of you and really, again, just we're proud of the case studies when it's done.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds amazing. I want to ask you about business partnerships because a lot of people listening to this either have a business partner or curious about business partnerships. You had a business partner for 16 years. You kind of came together. You were doing marketing branding. She was doing media relations. What was the germination of that idea forming up and creating one company?
Yeah. So I'm always the risk taker, and she was the conservative one. And we were working together on a client. I was their in-house marketing director. And we were hiring her out freelance. And her and I just worked really well together, early on at a young age. We just had a lot of drive, same work ethic, and honestly had a lot of fun doing it. And so, we worked together for over a year. Ironically, she met a guy on a plane that needed student housing consulting. We hooked up, he hired me, and I operated for about 9 months on my own and just begged her, like, come on, this is like a perfect partnership. Finally, she was really unhappy in her job. So she decided to jump ship, take the risk, trust me. And, we built a phenomenal company for 16 years and we had so much fun. I mean, we're great partners because we really did run two separate components of the business. So I was really running the branding, this activation marketing side. And Melissa was really focused on media relations, influencers, things like that. And then just fast forward 16 years later, I mean, partnerships are hard, but life changes as well. So I think there were some life changes that made us realize like what we both wanted to focus on. And it was just kind of different initiatives. And again, it was a great like partnership, and we still work together now and on certain clients where I do not touch media relations anymore. So it's just, life changes.
Yeah.
I have to say we learned a lot. We did have a great partnership, and it was because we stayed in our lanes. And I think that's what made it so much easier to split up because there was no arguing of like, hey, I'm taking this, you're taking that. It was really clean of I take PR, you take PR, I take marketing. Done.
Yeah. How has the adjustment been to shift back to being a sole business owner without having a business partner?
Well, it's been hard for two reasons. One, I haven't worked this hard like since I was 25. But I'm honestly loving it because I'm immersed in my clients' work now, which that's why I started the business in the first place. When we grew so big, it became about just managing employees, which again, I love my team, but I love the work more. I love the creativity aspect. So that's been hard. I've had a man who's been with me for 14 years and he's kind of always been my right hand, and he's not my business partner, but I have that person to bounce ideas off of, which that's what her and I were for. And then it's just been an adjustment of going from a team of 30 to now 8,
That's a big change. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm excited. We're comfortable right now, but building new things in the future. We're doing a lot of this fractional CMO work and thinking about building some stuff in the future.
And then, you've been like working with, student housing properties and with, franchise locations and things like that. And the market has changed so dramatically now compared to where it was like, 15, 20 years ago now. What is it like now as you develop, let's say, a new brand? What is it like with the kind of digital first kind of world that we live in? Or are you finding that you can still do these promotions, do these, wild ideas, and that it hasn't changed that much? You just have additional distribution channels to get the word out about them.
So what's funny is COVID was like, everyone's changing, go digital. And we built digital leasing offices. We invested so much money in this digital leasing experience. But ironically, I'm finding that now, there's still a great percentage of students that lease online or, what we do is like the iPhone tour. And then obviously all the digital tools like social media, we're reaching the students, converting them to leasing. But a lot of on the student and multi side, they still want to come and see where they're living if they can. They want to touch and feel it. So that I would say is picked up more, and they are craving this community more than they have been in the past. So,
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think this student based is they're still on their devices, but like I just threw a huge rooftop party for the ASU Big 12 game, and everyone was thanking me. Like, we
Mm.
used to do this all the time. Thank you for doing this. And
Mm.
we had a blast, and it was like about the connection and the community. And I think that people just I mean, human connection is real. It's not the same on the screen. It's
Totally.
great to meet with someone face to face.
Yeah.
So the parties and the activations are still working. What I think is different now, which is interesting with multi-hand student, is everyone would build these wild, sexy buildings, and they'd have the gym and the golf simulator and everything. And that's what would attract people. But now they want more. So they want this brand activation component. So they want to know, like, when they're moving in, okay, what's going to happen in that clubhouse, like
Mm.
before they live there.
What
So
activities or events, things like that?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're trying to partner with big brands that, want to be in front of the students, and they're like naming the clubhouse. And so they're
Mm.
throwing the parties, they're in front of the students. And it's kind of a win-win for everyone, because the students get the activation and the fun, like sexy brand component. And then the brands get access to the students, their data, them as a customer. So it's been
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I mean, I think it has to be, it has to have to do with the fact that we're all on these digital devices all the time, and we don't have as much personal interconnection as we used to before everyone had a phone in their pocket and was using it 17 hours a day.
Yeah. And I have to say, we've done parties all week. And this last week, it was so cool to see the kids put their phones down. We did like these activations where we did like a succulent making party, and we had
Mm.
80 people, and they were being creative. They were having conversation. And, I just think that that helps their growth as humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. By the way, you use that term activation, which I'm kind of slow here. What does that mean, brand activation?
Yeah, it's really about like the true word, activating a space. So taking a brand and immersing the brand in a space or an area with their customers in a creative way.
Mm.
So we're really, like I said, coming up with, for example, I don't know if you know Postino, they're an awesome wine bar here, and they're national. But we are having them do cheese. They can't do wine at the student housing places, but they're doing bruschetta and cheat charcuterie boards like once a month at these different student housing places in their clubhouse. And they put a sign there
Hmm.
and a QR code. So everyone that scans a QR code gets a free glass of wine if they're 21, or a discount off a board if they're under 21. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it's like this immersive experience that brands have an opportunity to participate in with their customers.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I went to a party school. I know the kids that they're finding a way to get alcohol, even if it isn't being served. So, um, I want to wrap up with my gratitude question. So I'm a big fan of giving our guests the opportunity to shout out, people that have helped them in their journey, throughout their career and the entrepreneurial journey. Who would you want to recognize?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say Entrepreneur Organization has just changed my business, my life, and my forum mates. I'm so grateful for. But I'd love to give a shout out to Carly Presley. Was my first manager on the student housing side, and it's ironically come full circle where I've owned my company, and she owns a large student housing third party management and development company. And everything I'm doing now in my career, I'm remembering what she taught me, and like that work ethic. And I just, it's so important, because it's really sad that a lot of the college kids right now that I'm interacting with, it's just that work ethic needs to be like driven in to them.
Mm.
Unless like their parents are true entrepreneurs, it's really hard to like activate that spirit, and even that face to face, like for them to want to be face to face with other people.
Yeah, yeah, for
So,
sure.
and really cool. Yeah, I'm really appreciative of her.
Alexis, this is awesome. Where can people go to learn more about you and Serendipity Consulting?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn as Alexis Krisay, or you can visit serendipityconsulting.com, and we have a contact page. So looking forward to sharing big ideas with anyone that wants to chat.
I love that. Alexis, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.